しゃ愛で空が落ちてくる You are しゃ俺の胸に落ちてくる
Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I'm taking a look at Hokuto no Ken Seikimatsu Kyuseishu Densetsu for the PlayStation, which people usually just shorten to Hokuto no Ken, forgetting about the 1995 release. This game was developed and published by Bandai and released in Japan only in October of 2000. I'm happy to say that it represents a significant turn for the better in the quality of games based on this series. It's actually my second favorite game based on the legendary manga of the same name, just edging out Ken's Rage, which I also enjoyed. The plot of the game closely follows that of the manga, which, in case you've somehow not picked it up by this point, takes place in a post-apocalyptic future when civilization has been destroyed by nuclear war and now humanity is basically reverted back to very primitive ways, and it's again survival of the fittest. Enter Kenshiro, a cross between Bruce Lee, Mad Max, and Jesus. He can kill legions of bad guys and heal the mute and the blind. He wanders the wasteland, helping people wherever he goes and bringing down evil tyrants. In this game, you'll go from the very beginning of the story all the way to the end of the first series, and you'll see all of the major characters, locations, and plot points therein. If you haven't seen the anime or read the manga, then this might be a much more succinct way to experience this story, but I wouldn't recommend that. I'd say do both. Watch the show and play the game. Both at the same time if possible. Hokuto no Ken is basically a straightforward beat-em-up, but with a few cool features thrown in to make it more appropriate for the material. Each chapter will have you in some manner of arena, meaning you can't roam about. You're stuck in that area and enemies will come in a few at a time. You have buttons for punching, kicking, and jumping, and you can combine them into combos and special attacks. If you can counter an enemy's attack at the exact right moment, then you can take them out in one hit. Unless they're a sub-boss, in which case you'll go into a sequence that requires a series of button presses. Hit all the correct buttons in time, and they'll explode and take out nearby enemies. When you're taking on a boss character, you have to wear down their health before you can go into this sequence, and when you're successful, you're treated to a nice cutscene where they die in some very elaborate and bloody manner, which this series has always been very good at. The only real complaint I have with the gameplay in Hokuto no Ken is that you can't lock on to individual enemies, which can be really irritating, especially when facing enemies that move around a lot. A group of enemies on motorcycles, for example, gave me a pretty difficult time just because I couldn't focus on any one of them. Also, some of the camera angles are a bit bothersome and can make it hard to judge your distance from some enemies, but aside from these two complaints, I really enjoy the gameplay in this game. There is a versus mode included where you can choose from Kenshiro and the various boss characters in the game that you unlock. There's also a theater mode where you can rewatch cutscenes from the game. I didn't really find any use for this mode, but there it is. Overall, really fun gameplay though. Some pretty excellent presentation as well. The graphics are pretty nice. They have a semi-cel-shaded look that actually kind of reminds me a little of the Mega Man Legends games, but not quite as colorful. The character models and environments all look great and represent the source material well, and I do really appreciate the inclusion of the show's signature, violent, over-the-top deaths that almost always end with a person exploding into a fountain of blood and gore. The sound design is also handled really well. You get plenty of music from the series, as well as some good new music, and most of the original Japanese voice actors reprise their roles, which is very cool. On the whole, this is a good-looking and sounding game that should be really appealing to fans of the series, and to newcomers as well. So, as I gave away at the beginning of the review, I really like this game. It has some flaws for sure, but overall I find it really enjoyable. It satisfies me both as a fan of the beat-em-up genre and as a fan of Fist of the North Star. If you also fall under one or both of these two categories, then I'd be willing to bet you'd enjoy this game too. It can typically be found online for between 20 and 30 bucks, so it's not a huge gamble. If a violent and fun 3D brawler sounds like something you'd be interested in, then by all means, go out of your way to play Hokuto no Ken, Seikimatsu Kyuseishu Densetsu. It's post-apocalyptic.